Hello everybody, hope you're having a fantastic day. Today I'm going to be working on this envelope. I'm making 4 of them to be sending out, so I thought I would take you along. You can see my process of making this here darling little piece of mail. I should point out that this mail I have a little bit more plain on the front. I want it so that the postal machines can read it more easily. If it's too busy, I'm afraid that they might not be able to read it. It'll be pulled out and they have to do it manually and it takes longer. I do have it busier in the back with a lot more going on, a lot more fun for the eye to see, but I don't mind that. I just want to make sure this front is readable. So this is a napkin I got. It's an awesome one from the dollar store. I don't know if they still carry it. They probably do. I'm just not positive. So I'm going to cut apart these edges, and that's going to go along the end. So now I'm going to just cut out this other part here that I'm going to be working with. And I'm going to save this portion because I use it to wipe up things as I'm working. So now, now I'm going to go for the butterfly. I want to be careful and rip out that butterfly. And I do it by little portions because if I do too much of it, it might like rip into the butterfly. Like see that right there, I'm really close to that edge, a little too close. So if I go little tiny rips, I'm more apt to not like destroy my butterfly. So there's my butterfly. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use my iris, the flower, on the back side. So I'm just kind of taking apart all the pieces and preparing them to be used separately in different places. Okay, so let's get going. I'll keep that there so you can see it. So here's my envelope. I'm going to take Mod Podge. This is just one that I have. This one's for paper. I only bought it because it was on sale. I didn't buy it because I thought it was so much more special. Maybe it is. Actually, I'm going to start this side. All I know is it works, and that's what matters. So I want to do that, and then I'm going to take one of these long strips and place it along the bottom. I'm trying to put a nice amount of the Mod Podge so that it will soak through, get through the napkin. I should also point out this napkin, prior to the video, I actually already took it apart. I should show you how to do that, just in case you've not done that before. Let me see. Oh, that one's shorter. Let me fix that. No problem. Right there. So now it's going to the edge. So I've got that on. So this is another one of the napkins. So with the napkin, you want to kind of rough it up on the edge so that you can get to the different layers of the napkin, because you want to pull it apart like that. So you just pull slowly. They're usually pretty strong and hardy, but you know, just kind of gingerly pull it, and then you have it, the piece that you can more so see through. Now, some napkins have more than one layer, so you want to watch for that. Let me see if I can find something. So is that picking up on the camera? Can you see the little pattern down below? So you can see through that, so it just adds to the funness of using napkins. So anyway, that's where I was at, the part that I missed showing you. Now I want to place my butterfly right here. Gonna go ahead and put on a bunch of Mod Podge so it'll stick. Now some people wait completely for the Mod Podge to dry, and I see some people just going over it right away. I don't know if there's a particular way that's right or wrong. So what I'm going to do, just to make sure, since I am sending it on the mail, I'm going to dry it and then put a top coat. Alright. So now I'm putting a coat over the top, making sure I get the edges, because I want to just seal this piece and make sure it stays in, or not in, but on. Make sure it stays in place. Looking good. And then get some over here. So I'm gonna now dry it more. I should point out I have some little pieces right there along the edges, so you can take little portions. It just adds a little bit more interest. Boy, I keep on needing to open and close this. Sorry about that. It just adds a little bit more interest to the page. So like just plop that there. So I'm doing this one the opposite. I'm not drying it first. I'm just layering it up. We'll see. And I want to make sure my edges aren't sticking out so it doesn't catch on anything as it's being processed. Here's another little piece then I can put on. So this would be the location of right after where the return address is. Okay, I like that. And then of course the stamp is going to go over here, so I don't want to get in that way. So what I want to do, I'm going to dry this because now I want to do the ink on this side. And I want my glue dry before I begin that. Okay, so what I did next, if you look at this envelope, you're going to see that some of the text type looking stuff on it. I did take a text stamp. This time I used this one. I don't know who makes it. There goes my phone. So this is the archival ink I'm going to use on it. Just go ahead and place the stamp down. On this one, I did take a little bit more effort to avoid the address area, so I should have done that on this one as well, to be honest. But I think I was yip-yapping once again, and that distracts me. Okay. Now what I want to do, I took Distress ink, and I painted that on here. So I'm going to take my paintbrush and wash it real quick. And this is where the napkin, the leftover napkin. Okay, my camera just died. It was full, didn't die. My camera was just full, and so I'm starting, I think this is where I was at. I was about to put the paint color on it. So I have 3 different colors right here. I have peeled paint, I have dried marigold, and I have worn lipstick. So I'm going to start out with the green. Going to smush a little bit down here. This is one of those Ranger mats. I have to tell you, I've gotten this mat. They're much less expensive. I got it off of Amazon. And don't bother getting it, because what happens is these are more porous, and anything wet that you do, it will actually go through. It's worthless in that sense. It's nice if you're just gonna do something easy on it, something that doesn't have moisture, but if it has moisture, you want to get the Ranger mat. Alrighty, so there's that, and there's that. There's those 3 colors, and I'm going to put a little puddle of water by each of them, and I'm just going to grab a brush. Oh, it's a Ranger brush. Huh. Okay, grab a little bit of the ink. You want to kind of just see how it's going to flow. Now, I am not by any means, you know, some like watercolor artist. I am just like putting color on there to create movement and interest. I do want to kind of keep that area blank, because that's where I'm going to be putting the address once again. So I've got that color in there, and now before I move on to another color, I want to wash my brush. This is where it's nice if you make more than one at a time, because then I could go on and do more. So let me see. Let me grab my towelette. Clean that up. move on to the next color. So what I can also do, those little blots right there, I'm just going to pull them up. It creates another just interesting texture to it. So the thing that you also want to be careful though with your envelope is it's not, unless you put some kind of a finish on it, a medium on it, it's going to absorb your water. So you got to be careful with your water. So this is the marigold. It's going to pick up those colors that's in the butterfly. With this one, I don't need as much water. The more water I have, it's harder to see the color. But with the green, I needed more water. Otherwise, it was just too bold. So I'm just going to kind of play and put marks there. So I want to put a little pink. Once again, that pink is really bold. Because it is so close to the marigold, I don't need to wash my brush in between. So I don't want to use as much, but it just creates that movement on the page. Alrighty, let's move on to drying it. Before I dry it though, I can do this part still. I want to put ink along my edges with the green. Once again, just like I would do on something else, but if I kind of get it beyond the edge, see how it just creates that little extra interest? I do need to watch out with my sponge with this being wet, because it changes how it flows on my paper. So I'm going to dry it. Yikes! Okay, while I still have my ink, because I have a fair amount of ink here, I'm going to turn over my envelope and I'm going to do the back side. I've already done the stamping on it like I did on the front side. So I'm going to just do the exact same thing that I did on the front. I'm going to grab some ink and I'm just going to randomly move it around the page. I'm going to be putting other things over the page, so it's not so important where I'm putting it or how I'm putting it. I'm just going to try to move some color around. So, and I'm not, this time, I'm not going to worry about, I'm just going for it. I'm not going to wash my brush in between. It's okay on this side, I think. And once again, this one's got a lot of color to it, so I'm adding a little bit more water than I would to the other ones and just creating movement. So I've got all this on here. But see how much this is covered. So even though that looks really wild and stuff, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be fine. So I'm going to dry this and we'll move on. Now that this side is dry, I'm going to go back to and do my little edging just like I did on the other side. Just creates a fabulous look. I really like it on there. Now that I'm done with that, I'm going to take my dauber and I'm going to be gentle, but I want to have added background with the green. I can do like a vintage photo on it as well, but I think the green is good. So you see, you have to watch out. My envelope's coming up a little bit down there. So before I mail it, I'll go along and make sure everything is really secured. Okay, let's look back at my envelope here. So I've got those parts done. I think the next thing I want to do is put on my doily. So here's a doily. Oh, an avalanche of doilies. And I'm going to just put a little section over here in the corner. So I want to make sure, once again, that I'm not going to interfere with the mail. So, I mean, the address. Yeah. So I'm just going to cut just a little portion. Just a portion that's going to bring the feeling of that in without actually getting in the way of everything else. Now, one thing... Okay, I do need to make sure my brush is clean for this, because if I put a dirty brush in my Mod Podge, it's going to mess everything up. So, I have this little Ranger squirt bottle. I didn't like it in the beginning, but actually I'm really liking it now. I didn't like that handle, kind of that funky handle. It's working out though. Alright, so move things a little bit. I'm going to check on my area and see where I want to place it. One thing that is going to happen is that the distress ink below it will move from the moisture. So you want to gingerly lay it down and then put this down. So it's going to pick up and move the coloring. So I'm smashing it because I want it to stay down, you know, with the they're kind of thick and they, you know, they're embossed, but I need it to be down. So doing that, it also picks up some of the color from the ink, and so you're going to see a difference. Like, let me show you this one. It picks up from behind it and then over it. So your doily actually is no longer actually white, but you can definitely see it, and it definitely is awesome. Okay, now that I have that done, there's only one more thing that I need to do on this side, but I'm going to do it on the very end, and so I'm going to dry it and turn it over. So on the other side, we have a lot going on. What I'm going to start with first is the little edging there again. So I'm going to take my Mod Podge. I'm going to open up the edge for this so it doesn't get on the glue area and glue my envelope closed. That can happen. So I've got that there, pulling it up, and then I'm going to just kind of rip off a portion of that, like that. And then with the remainder, so this one got into the paint a little bit, but I actually kind of like it. So I'm going to like not even worry about it. I'm going to put that on as an added little benefit. It looks awesome. Really, I like that. Okay, so then now that I have that, I also have some down there I want to put in. So some of these little parts that I just ripped off, I can create, I want a ripped edge along this rim. I don't want it to be straight, so I want to do a little ripping there. Let me pull this over here. So I'm going to lay down some Mod Podge. So I have this whole big iris over here, so I'm going to do that next. So I'm going to match it up to kind of the top. I'm going to end up cutting a little bit off. So I'm going to saturate it. I'm going to make sure I have a nice layering of the Mod Podge for it to stick to. And then I'm going to start it. Mod Podging is fun. I'm liking it. It creates such drama with such little effort, really. It's just awesome. Okay, there we go. So I don't need this part down here. You can either cut it off or you can rip it off. I think I'm going to rip it off. When you rip it off, you have to be careful because sometimes it does not want to rip off and you just really can mess stuff up. So I got a little glue going on my scissors. Want to just kind of get off. So now that I have that on, I also have a little bit of music right there. This is a hymnal that I got at the thrift shop. Love it. Use it all the time. So I'm going to place that in here. I did also ink it up a little bit. I didn't want it to be too fresh looking. I want to give it some personality. So with this one, I did use just my white glue actually on the back rather than the Mod Podge. Just what I chose. You could use Mod Podge. It's a glue, but I just felt like this would secure better for this paper. Okay, so I got that going on there. That going on there. I also have half a doily peeking out here. Let's see. I want it to be, it's going to go over that. Maybe a little farther down, about right there. This one is a bigger doily than that one. Here's a smaller one I'm going to use. It's not the same doily, but it's probably the same size. Okay, so I found a spot. I'm going to cut it right there. That's how far I'm going to go for my gluing. So I'm going to hold it up to the edges, and I'm going to start my glue process. Oops. brought some extra along there. So I'm going to do half of it first and then move into the other half. I want to make sure I have enough Mod Podge down to accommodate my piece. And then pressing it in once again because it does have all those little flips and flaps and crevices in it. So here we go, laying all this down. So the thing you want to make sure is that you're not gluing the flap closed. So I've got that, and I'm also going to do the one at the top. I'm going to cut this one right away. So I'm just cutting it along the lip, the natural lip of my envelope. And I can cut that too if I want. It's no big deal if that one's not cut. Okay. So, oh, you know, I had a stamp under there too I forgot about. Yeah, it's okay. It looks fine without it. If I decide at the end that I want it, I can put it there. So I did put some other things underneath here. I put this little mail thing. The reason I added the doily at the top here was because it looked off balance to me because I had this and then I had my little stamp thing right there. I still want to do my little stamp thing. But I don't know that I want to necessarily use that there. Maybe I'll just use a little of this. Just to create a little more darkness under there, but not like that. It's not something that's going to be noticeable about what it is. So there you go. I'm going to get a stamp now. I have to make that. So I took this off my postal box page. I had it on my postal box page, and I thought, oh, I'm going to make a little stamp to put on this. It's cute. So to make a stamp, you can take anything, any size. I'm just going to eyeball it and do it. I like eyeballing stuff when I can instead of having to measure everything. Although measuring, you know, you do get a precise piece then, and boy, there's a lot to say about that. Okay, so I've got that how I want it. I'm going to glue my little critter on there. And I also want to ink my edges. Let me just put these over for the moment. Don't want them drying out. Okay. Inking my edges just so it creates a little bit more depth and movement in the little stamp piece. Now that I have that done, I'm just going to take a scrap piece and glue it onto that. For the scrap piece part, actually, it's probably better if you use, instead of paper, if you use a cardstock. I have cardstock here too, a little left over, so I'm going to put it right there. And I'm going to do my cutting off of this. So I'm just going to cut right along the edge. All the way around it. I want to cut closer on this one. Okay, and there goes my stamp. So with this also, I do want to take my distress ink. Just kind of dirty up those edges a little bit. I like it better. Like that. Okay. That is going to go right there. Before that goes though, and this is probably just about dried sufficiently for me to go over the top, I want to get this in there. I could use the one that's just like this, but I have this right here, so I think I might just use that. So just kind of cutting along the edge to make a line for the top of where this is going to go. Actually, I want to cut this side just a tad bit. Cut it a little bit more. Glue it down. So I'm going to position it and then lift it up to glue so that I have it in the spot that I want it. So, and you'll see in a second what I'm talking about. You won't really know the pieces below. It doesn't matter what they are. So if you have a piece of napkin or whatever that you're treasuring, right? Use something different down below there because it won't matter that much. You're not going to be able to tell what it is. So make sure you have your edges all nice and secured. And then I'm going to go ahead and just go over the top right away. I like going over the top right away. I think I'm a little bit more impatient, so I like it rather than waiting for it to dry and then going over the top. So, yeah, confession there. So I'm going to do a little snippet of these. Okay. I'm going to do some drying and then paint glue over the top. Okay, that one's dried nicely. I'm going to go ahead and go over these. I'm not going to go over the whole music. I just want to go along the edges. Maybe that's all that's necessary really on these other parts too, is the edges. It's because if the rest is already secured down below. Just my thought. This one has a bunch of edges, of course, with that lacy little edge of the doily. So every little puncture is an edge, right? Alright, so a little bit more drying. Okay. It's still quite a bit sticky, I must say. So then this is going to go on the edge, so I'm going to put a V-shaped. It'll go on the edge of the envelope. Right there. And then I think that I want a little bit more color down there. A little more brightness of like the pinks. So I think I'm just going to take my sponge and kind of lay it in like this rather than paint it in. Little, oops, do a little on the top like that too, especially with that dark part there. Got a little on this one, but that's okay. I actually kind of like it. Okay, put the lid back on, put my sponge back. I don't know if you do this with yours. You can store the sponges down below here, so all you have to do is rip it off the one and then boop, have it on the other one. I like that little tidbit. It was from Tim Holtz. Okay. So this one has more busyness and activity down there, but I'm happy with how this one is. And let's see this side. So the next thing I did was I took this. This is just some cheap glitter glue, glitter stuff from the dollar store. And I kind of wrapped it around the page like this, and I just took my finger and moved it around because I don't want blobs, but I want the glitter to be around because it just gives it just a fun little look. I don't know if that picks up at all, but it really makes a fun little difference. So I'm going to do that on the back as well. I'm just going to kind of squish it around, and then I'm going to move it around with my finger. Like that. It's funny how something from the dollar store really can make a big difference. I just love the dollar store, huh? Get some great things there. I might actually put a stamp or something right there. Sometimes I keep looking back and thinking it just needs a little more since the other one. I don't know if it's the other one, but it just needs... Maybe I just need to be happy with that space as it is. All right. So the one other thing this one needs here that I did, I tried to kind of reproduce the concept of the little dots on the butterfly. So you see these little dots here within my envelope? You might have a stamp that does that. I just use the back of my pencil with eraser. This is an eraser that I don't use, so it's fair game. And I just place dots around, keeping in mind that I want to put the addresses in. So that is my finished envelope. And then there's that side, and then I'm going to load it up with goodies. So I hope you enjoyed seeing it. Something like this, you can make a smaller version and then put it right in your mailbox that we just made. So this is an awesome idea. So go ahead and have fun with it. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.